Hey everyone, this is Elias from Rethink Media, and today we're going to be taking a look at the 2022 Chevrolet Bolt EV. Now, I figured it'd be fitting to wear my Jurassic Park shirt, because it doesn't use fossil fuels. Well, let's go ahead and get started. We get started in front and we can see, yeah, this guy has some quirky little design things to it, which is nice. Again, I don't expect supercar kind of awesome design, but it still looks good. A couple of things. We get started with the headlights, and yeah, we have the kind of the faux headlights that I like to mention, because this looks like it would be the headlights, but in reality, it's the bottom area here. So what would be like a fog light, that's what that's what this is. This is where the projector is. And the LED system is really nice and clear. I like the design as well, that it's kind of broken up into those two little things there. And then we come to the front, and with this being an EV, there's not a lot of cooling needing to be done in the sense of, having a massive radiator opening down here. So that's why you'll see this, because it's all about efficiency. And if there's less drag in the aerodynamics of it, it's definitely going to help out. So we have this guy there to help with probably, gosh, I'm sure it helps out. I'm not an aerodynamics expert, but that's usually what it's for. And then we get to the front facing camera. Now, let me tell you, this thing is incredible, because the surround view camera that this thing has really embarrasses some other big SUVs that I've driven that don't have this system. And yeah, this thing is tiny. It's so easy to park, but the fact that you have that camera makes it even better. It's not really needed, but it's definitely welcomed. And thank you, Chevy, for putting that on there. This is probably one of my favorite things to get this guy in even the tiniest of spots, because yeah, it's just tiny. Well, let's go ahead and see what we have under the hood. We get under the hood and we have an electric motor. Yeah. This is so weird. This is so weird to see so many orange cables and not see cylinders, not see oil fills, all these things. Yeah, this is a new one for me. But a couple of things with this. So this guy does crank out 200 horsepower, and it does have an estimated mileage of 259 on a full charge. We're also looking at 0 to 60 in about 6.5 seconds. That's pretty quick. That's pretty quick for a small compact like this. So yeah, honestly, this has been a lot of fun to play with, to have really, and the charging has been super simple. Just going into the menu system to charge it. The power is there. Now, when you switch it over to sport mode, you definitely feel a huge change in the throttle response for it. The other thing as well with the EV is that from a stop, obviously, theoretically, it can literally burn up those tires with no issues, but is civilized in the sense that from a stop, you will, you won't burn out, even with traction control on or off. It limits the power, but I did see having some torque steer, if you're on a turn and you decide to really go at it, then traction control is like, whoa, okay. But it's just been a really fun platform. Yeah, this is making me think about having an EV. Well, let's go ahead and see what we have in those wheels and tires. We get down to the wheel and tire package, and we have this nice 17-inch design wheel on here, and it is wrapped in the Michelin 215/50 tire. Now, a couple of things with this is, well, first, the wheel design is nice. I like it. I like the kind of polished face of it with the colored black inserts. Look really nice. No complaints there. And the fact that it's kind of a twist, it's always a nice design that I've always loved. So no issues there. We get to the tire. The tires are nice and quiet. They do desire, I desired a little bit more grip, because you can definitely spin these guys, especially with it being an EV, especially with it being a front wheel drive vehicle. So yeah, a little bit more grip would have been nice. The other thing is, but they're quiet, they're smooth, no complaints there. With the suspension, it absorbed everything. With the fact that this is an EV and we have the batteries at the bottom, it's so crazy how weight distribution, like you could really feel the weight distribution be at the bottom, which really helps with stability. You know, any bump you hit or any turn you make, you're not feeling top heavy. You know, I have a Nissan Versa that is extremely top heavy, or feels extremely top heavy, and any little gust of wind, you're having to counter steer the wind, because it just kind of feels like you're being toppled over. Not with this. Again, we've had massive 40-mile-an-hour winds, and this guy was extremely stable because of that lower weight from the battery. Same thing we felt in the Jeep Wrangler 4xe that had the battery, which I've said it's the best driving Wrangler ever that I've driven, and I've driven a bunch because of that low power or low weight at the bottom. Now, as far as the tires though as well, I did have a weird thing where I literally had to fill it up with air every 2 days. So, you know, it says to have it at 38 pounds or 38 PSI, and every morning I would see it and think, wow, that looks low. When I would put my gauge, I was reading 33, and sometimes even I think one day was at 30. So that's a big difference. So not sure what's going on with these tires, but yeah, I just had to keep an eye on it. Well, let's go ahead and see what we have on the side. We take a look at the side and we can see it's a hatchback. My favorite. I love hatchbacks. Now, a couple of things with this is it does have a quirky design, and with that being said, I wish it were a different color than the gray. A red, a yellow, a blue, I'll even go with a green. Just something different would have been cool to have with this design. So we take a look at a couple of things. We see kind of a little bit of that faux headlight peeking out through there. We have the 17-inch wheels on here, which actually surprisingly fill the wheel wells pretty well, yeah. So you may not want to mess with that, yeah. But we also have the charger here, and yeah, that's where you just go ahead and connect. This has been really easy. Parked in my garage, hooked it up, and was ready to go. Was charging. There's tons of options inside to time things, to change, you know, when you want it to charge, that kind of stuff. We have the camera down here for the 360-degree view, which, like I said, it's not needed, but thank you, because it makes parking this easy to park vehicle even easier. So yeah, glad we have that. We then have, you know, just big windows. That's the other thing. And we see a little bit of that dip, like kind of what we have with the Ford F-150s, to bring the mirror down significantly. Because yeah, you can see typically you would have your mirror here with that little triangle, but it's significantly lower and it helps with visibility. So definitely thank you, Chevy, for having that, because it makes that, you know, safety really is a big issue with some mirrors and some major blind spots with vehicles. And then we have a massive rear door, and we have a small little hatch design there. Now I have my key in my pocket, so I'll go ahead and reach in my door handle, and it's not going to open. So the keyless entry does have a little button here for you to go ahead and press, and there's no button back here though. So I'll go ahead and push this, and I can open, and I'm good to hop in. Now, the other thing as well, I can go ahead and close. Now, I'll go ahead and film it, but it does actually have like a gong. So we'll actually go ahead and lock that, and yeah. You have to press it twice in order for that to work. So you go ahead and close that off, and the other cool thing about this is when I was charging, I can come over to the car, push the button, and it will show me, and I didn't even have the key with me. So I can push the button, and it will kind of bring up the gauge cluster to tell me how much more time it needed to charge. There is also an indicator on the dash on the top, so you can see it there. But it was doing some lights that I didn't quite understand. I didn't read the manual, I'll be honest with you, but it was awesome that I could just push the button and it will tell me that info. Let me go ahead and get in so you guys can hear the gong. So I get in and yeah, it's a fun little thing. It did surprise me. It actually scared me the first time. I was like, what, what was that kind of thing? But yeah, it's fun. Let's go ahead and see what we have in the back. We get to the back and yeah, it's a nice design. I love the rear design on this. We do have a hatchback, again, which is my favorite. But a couple of design cues that I really love are these taillights. So I love the fact that with these taillights, you have the transparent plastic on the outside, which then reveals a cool design on the inside for the actual use of a taillight. But yeah, overall, it's a nice design. It also kind of swoops around a little bit towards the side of the bolt, but yeah, nice design. Love that there. We have the Bolt EV badging there. We have the rear wiper. I like that fact that it is out of the way. It doesn't obstruct your view like some other ones that are literally almost in the middle of the rear window. But yeah, it's really nice. I like this design. I just wish it were a better color. Yeah, I would have liked a louder color. No exhaust because, again, this is an EV. Unfortunately, nothing is really heard. Yeah, but if you do back up, it does have a little chime. So even though it's super quiet, it will still kind of beep to make sure, pedestrians are aware that you are backing up. So we do have that. Now, unfortunately, with this hatch, it is a manual hatch, so it isn't, you can't do it with the key fob, you can't do it with a button, other than to release it there with the button. So yeah, that's unfortunate. Would have been nice to have that. I don't know if the EUV has it. I'd have to do some research on that, but that would be nice. I'm assuming that would. Now, the other thing that I really like about this design is it takes the taillights with it. So I can see this taillight replacement, should you need to, being a lot easier up here than it is having to kind of dig back here for things. So it's a nice kind of design to that there. The other design part is the trunk area. It's big. There is a lot of space here. The other thing, well, relative to a hatchback, obviously SUVs are typically going to have more, but I do like the fact that we do have a fairly deep trunk area. It's not deep going down, but that's because we have that cover there. If you remove the cover, it really goes down. So there's a lot of space. And if you use both, it's even better because now you have kind of a double stack of things. So yeah, I was super impressed by this. And again, you can put the back seats down, which is what I did when I went to go do a big grocery run. But yeah, overall, this little guy is pretty fun. Well, let's go ahead and on the key fob, I can go ahead and start it up. Push down the button and yeah, lights flicker and it's on. Can you hear it? Exactly, it's an EV. Let's go ahead and hop in for a ride. We get inside of the Chevy Bolt and it's like your typical smaller economy car, but better. So yeah, let's get started on the door. So the door does have some parts where it kind of feels a little cheap, but that's fine because you're not touching those parts. The parts you are touching, like your armrest, where your arm actually rests, is soft and feels good and it's positioned well. And yeah, ergonomically, your hands are near the window control, so everything checks out really well with this. So yeah, even though again, this top kind of area feels a little kind of cheaper, that's fine. I'll give it a pass because of the other part that feels great. Then we get to the seats, and the seats are really nice. They are a nice material. You also get really good comfort in them. I've been able to really relax in these with no issues. The one thing is you do sit a little bit higher. So you do sit a little bit higher, and you can see when you open up the door, you will see a little bit more of a higher platform where the seats actually are bolted on. That is because that's where the battery lives, right under there. But yeah, I mean, other than that you're just sitting a little bit higher, and it's just because I like sitting really, really low on my seat. Yeah, it's super comfortable. Long hauls, not a issue there. So definitely, I like these guys. Then we get over to the steering wheel, and the steering wheel is surprisingly nice. Yeah, again, yeah, this is a little bit more on a premium compared to like an econo car, but yeah, this is really nice. So first of all, the leather material feels good. It doesn't have too much give, but it's still soft enough that, you know, when you squeeze it, it'll feel good. And the crazy thing about this, we actually have a flat bottom, or semi-flat, because this is kind of like curved bottom. But yeah, it's a pretty good shape down here. Feels good ergonomically in my hands. And a couple of things, we do have the buttons on here on the left for your cruise control, which this does have adaptive cruise control on it. And on the right side, we have to control the gauge cluster and all those things. In the back, we do have a good amount of buttons actually. So we do have your volume up, volume down, next track, previous track, which is always good. Again, cleans up the front, lets it kind of shine for the other buttons, so to speak. And we also have the regen button over here, or the paddle really, which will help you regenerate. It's basically like applying the brake with your hand, so to speak. Think of it like that. So yeah, we have that guy there in case you're not using the one pedal drive with this, which we'll get into. But yeah, we have that, and again, it's just a really good feeling wheel. The road feel is nice as well through the wheel itself. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed with this wheel. Then we get to the gauge cluster, and it's a little on the smaller side. There's a lot of area that I see that's kind of blank, but the funny thing is that blank area is actually for fault lights. So check engine light, low tire temperature, ABS, traction control off. You know, it has all of those like kind of backlit kind of lights, I guess. We could have just made the display a little bit bigger and included those in there to just kind of give more room to the gauge cluster itself. It feels a little cluttered. It does feel a little bit cluttered because of the smaller size in this, but there is some good information. On the left, we do have the basically your, how much charge you have. In this case, it is telling me we have 202 miles to go. After I charged it about 75% of it. Then in the middle, we have that big circle. That big circle, if you're behaving, it's gonna give you the green. If you're not, it's gonna give you the yellow, which is for the power. And yeah, this little thing has a good amount of power. So yeah, green is gonna tell you you're behaving. Yellow means you're having fun. Let's put it that way. Then inside of it though, we do have things that you can change in there. So I've had it in tire pressure this whole time. And like I mentioned, it's because for some reason I've had to put air in these tires virtually every day that I've wanted to drive it. Just checking really, but really every like two to 3 days. Yeah, just kind of weird. But thankfully I have my little tire pressure, which is good. So, and then with this, I can double check, make sure everything is good on here. We do have a timer, driver assistance, trip, average speed. I mean, it's got some, you can put your music on there, see what song is playing. Yeah, your basic stuff. Nothing too exciting. You can change the layout as well if you want it to be kind of modern or enhanced. Honestly, enhanced is the way that I like to be because it's going to give you the most information and tire pressure. So this is where I've been 99% of the time. And then on the right side, we have your power. So if you're above that little line, you're using the battery power. If you're under it, when I pull off, because I'm in one pedal driving, it's going to regenerate the power. And it tells you the kilowatts as well, which is nice. So you can see how basically throttle input that you're using, and behave and make the most out of the charge. So it's a nice little tool there. Now, one thing that I would have liked for this would have been a heads-up display. I think that would be nice to have seen in this vehicle. I know it's smaller, I know it's more entry-level EV, but that would be nice to have this information up there or a simplified version of it. Really, maybe the power and the regen would have been cool to have, you know, and useful, really, not just cool, but also useful up there. And then we get over to the infotainment system, and it's big. It's a big screen. A couple of things with this is it does have wireless Apple CarPlay, which is always welcomed. It is a really good system too. Hasn't had any disconnects. In fact, it's had too many connects. What I mean by that is I was in the driveway, and I was loading up the car with some stuff, and it connected to my wife's phone, which was in the house, and she was listening to music, and I was like, I haven't heard this song from my playlist. But yeah, so it really can connect. You can change that to make sure it doesn't auto connect or prioritize the device. So yeah, that was a funny thing, because her phone, I think, was the first one we connected. And yeah, I mean, it's a big screen. One thing that's kind of, it's at a very steep angle, so it is very up. I would have liked it to be a little bit flatter, just kind of, you know, facing back a little bit more instead of facing up or facing down a little bit. One thing I didn't even realize, because they're kind of poorly placed, because the wheel is so big, because it is kind of a medium to big size wheel, I did not know I had buttons here till I kind of did one of these. I'm like, oh, there it is, because I was in Apple CarPlay and I was trying to figure out, okay, so where is the Chevy button so that I can get out of this and see the system? But it's right over here, so you kind of, it reminds me of BMW with, I'm sorry, Mercedes with their temperature, that thing there. But yeah, I can go ahead and press there, and it gets me out, and I can go into the UI of the Chevy itself. And I'll go ahead and switch over to energy. And yeah, this is where you're gonna see all that energy information, which we'll get into kind of in the performance side. But again, it's crystal clear, very bright, no complaints there. The touch is actually pretty responsive with this vehicle. So I'm super happy with this specific display. And then we come down here to the climate controls. No complaints here. Very simple, very straightforward options to get this kind of going, to make sure you're cool or you're hot. Basically, this is probably your biggest, aside from your right foot, this is going to be your biggest consumption of your electricity or your charge in the Bolt, or really in any EV vehicle. And then we come down here, and we have the wireless charger. Yes, we have a wireless charger. Yes, it works really well. It's at an angle. It fits my phone. It fits a really wide phone, actually, because mine is it's a 10S Max. Yeah, and with a case, and it still fits there. So the widest of phones will fit there with no issue. Then we come down a little bit more, and we have some fun buttons. And the first one is the kind of the sport mode. Well, that's actually what it is. It's the sport mode. So the throttle becomes a little bit peppier or more responsive. Then we have a massive traction control button, and you'll definitely need it, and I'll let you know why. And then we have our lane departure button there. We come back a little bit more, and we have our shifter. So our shifter is going to be basically buttons, where it's kind of reminds me of the Chevy SUVs that have the shifter on here, where you push down for park, you pull for reverse, you push down for neutral, and you lift up for drive. Yeah, so we have that here. I've been kind of, once I get in the car, I've been kind of doing one of these to kind of reach for a shifter, but yeah, they're buttons. And a little bit back, we have the one pedal drive, which is what we have on, because it's been really good. And yeah, this is kind of the future, one pedal drive with the EV. We come back a little bit more, and we have our cup holders. No issues there. They've been fairly good. No, nothing exciting, nothing different than they hold your cup. So it's hasn't been an issue with that. We get over to the armrest, and the armrest has been nice. Now, it doesn't feel, the material itself does feel a little bit on the cheaper side, kind of like on the door kind of thing that I mentioned, but it's ergonomically placed. It's you know, it's not a nuisance as a point of like, you know, material that's kind of harsh or anything. It just doesn't feel as good as what the left side feels. It's kind of weird that they'd use a different material for that. But yeah, it's okay. It can fit not much, so don't expect to really pack in your things. What's nice about this though is because it is an EV and we don't have the traditional shifter in the sense, we do have a little cubby down here in the center console underneath the shifter to put some items there. Maybe a half-gallon milk jug laying down, yeah. So it's not going to be standing up, it would be laying down, it would fit there with no problem. So nice thing. Now as far as the wide test, you know, shoulders, it's a little bit snug. So again, this isn't a big vehicle, this isn't a big SUV, and I understand that. So just be aware, your shoulders, if you have wide shoulders, you may kind of play the chicken wing game with your passenger. Then we get to the back, and the back seat are really nice. You know, they're comfortable, no complaints there. You still have a good amount of space back there, even though again this is a small compact vehicle. I have my kid's seat, I have the booster seat actually there this week, and he's actually outgrown the baby seat, so booster seat was fine there. He was comfortable, no issues there, loved it. And then we have the trunk area. So the trunk area for a small hatch was surprisingly big. Nowadays, I know that, you know, you try to give the rear passengers more space, and the trunk always suffers. Not in this case though. So we do have a good balance of inside space for the back seat, as well as a good amount of space for the trunk area as well. And it's deep as well. You have that little little cover there that you can take off and yeah, do a bunch of things to give you more space, or have it as kind of a double decker, so to speak. Now let's talk performance. We're dealing with an electric motor, and we're dealing with 200 horsepower, and we're going through the front wheels. Yeah. This is different. Yeah, this is definitely different than my usual reporting of how many cylinders, what transmission it's going to, and you know, all that stuff. So it is different. So this does have the 200 horsepower, and Chevy does rate this at having 259 miles of range and a 0 to 60 of 6.5. Yeah, that's pretty impressive for a little car like this. I mean, granted, you have the 200 horsepower there, but it's been fun. This thing has been fun. So let's go ahead. We'll go from a stop. We'll go ahead and put it in sport mode, and let's turn off the traction control. Yeah. And away we go. Ready? Go. That's 60. It's pretty impressive. It's a pretty impressive little vehicle. Now, so let's go ahead and put all the non-fun stuff back on. But this drive has been really good. I've been loving how smooth it is. It's quiet. Now, the crazy thing about this is with EVs, you have to be even better at not having rattles, at not having road noise come in, because there's no engine to cover up your mistakes, really. And that's the big thing about this. As crazy as it sounds, I drove one of the Audi SUVs. I forget which one it was. It was so noisy. It was so noisy with the steering. The steering was super loud, especially in like, you know, when you're pulling out of a driveway. It was just super noisy. And this thing is so quiet. And it's quiet on the road. The tires have been fairly quiet, even though I've had to really air them up constantly. Now the grip isn't there, so the grip isn't 100% there, so just be aware, watch your foot. It is really good though off the line to kind of control that behavior. Obviously, with it being an EV, it can theoretically just spin those tires to, you know, till they're gone. but it's really good. Even in the sport mode, even with traction control off, it will regulate that. Now when you're kind of on, already moving and you accelerate, it goes and it can use the torque a lot better to get it going, because it knows that it's not going to spin the wheels. Would I change the tires? Yeah, I feel like this could use a little bit of a grippier tire. I know these are more geared towards like efficiency, which is why it's important to make sure that you have, you air up your tires to the recommended specs, so that you can get the most out of your charge. But this has been really good, and the regen with the one pedal driving has been really good as well. It took me a little bit to kind of get used to. It's just kind of like a clutch. Think of it exactly like that. You get in a manual car that you've never driven, and you kind of need to get the feel of the engagement point. It's 100% that in this. So you need to kind of release it and figure out, how the clutch the engagement point is. But this has been really, really good. Now, with this being my first EV, you are going to have some kind of mileage anxiety. So just be aware of that. You'll get over it though. It's one of those things where it's a new technology, it's a new thing. Now, the first thing I had concern was, where am I going to charge this thing? And I checked my map, and there is a ton of areas in my neighborhood. So I live in the North Dallas area, and there's a movie theater that I can go catch a movie, charge there. There's a standalone charging station nearby. I can plug into my garage. So I do have a level 1. So it is a level 1 charger. It took me about every night I would gain about 30 miles of charge. And yeah, I mean, obviously, biggest thing, pro tip, check with your electric company and see what the off-peak hours are. I checked and I saw our rate, and I would literally have paid twice as much if I just charged it whenever than if I would have charged it in during peak hours than if I would have charged it with off-peak hours. So it's extremely important that you go to your company's website or your utility website and see what is the off-peak hours. And guess what? You can program it. So you basically just come in here, energy and charging options. Obviously I'm driving, so it's not letting me do that, but you can go ahead and input your schedule. So that way you can go ahead and leave it in the garage and it will start. Now I gave myself a 30-minute buffer just in case, who knows, kind of thing, to turn on 30 minutes after off-peak hours start and to turn off 30 minutes before off-peak hours end. So yeah, I was able to do that, and I got a good amount of charge in this. So we were about half, and I got about a quarter of the tank or the battery charge back, which is pretty good. Again, if I see myself getting one of these or getting an EV, definitely a charger built in would be the way to go. So that way you get level 2 charging, and it's significantly faster to get this going. And but again, it's very simple to kind of get into with no problems there. It's just been a really, really good vehicle. And this wouldn't be my primary vehicle though. I can definitely see it being a secondary to just, hey, I need to go to a grocery, I need to go grab so-and-so thing, I need to go run an errand across town, obviously with it full charge. So it would be the vehicle I would put the most miles on. Road trip, I don't know, because honestly, sometimes my road trips are, when I've driven from Dallas to Austin, are very time sensitive. So I don't know if I'd have the time to sit there and wait for it to charge. But maybe leaving a little bit early, who knows? But everything else, definitely, this has been a blast. And it's just so crazy how, like, the power is there. It's It's insane. It's so much fun. It's just a different experience. And yeah, again, the dinosaurs, fossil fuels, I don't know if I'd go, but honestly, I don't know if I can give it up. So the engine sounds are just so much fun. Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed my review of the 2022 Chevrolet Bolt. And remember, find the, this doesn't have gears, it just has a motor. See ya.